New setup today.
Not new.
Well, just not
New
used.
setup for the podcast.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's
Do you want to
nice.
explain why, or do you want me to give the...
Well, the rink's locked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So normally it's actually open on the weekends, and normally we do this during the week, but now
Yes.
we're running some a little bit of stuff during the day that we're allowed to do. So our normal podcast day has had to move. So our environment has had to follow.
And trust me, this is the best environment you're ever going to get. This is the
It
best. This is the best place on planet Earth.
I kind of like it. I think if it goes well, we'll just stay here from now on.
I'd rather.
Yeah.
Just the
it's
reason
nice.
that we've never really done it in here is because we've had programs running all the time. So we had to go find a private place upstairs at the arena. But this is the best place in the world.
Yep.
And I'm not the only one that says it.
I think everyone that has
the
been here
best.
long enough says it.
Yeah.
Best environment.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I was saying earlier, we didn't really talk much this week. So how'd the week go for you?
I loved it, man.
Yeah.
I had the best week ever. It was, see, I've never taken for granted. When anybody asks me, like, I get opportunities all the time to do different things all over the place. And I've weighed out my business over the years. I've had several opportunities. And there was a point where I was becoming, not sounding arrogant, so I'm careful how I say this, but I was becoming very in demand, not like all over the place. So I had to make a business decision years ago, just before Charlie was born. Do I want to be a traveling roadshow, or do I want to settle in one spot and maybe do a little bit of both, but mostly settle in one spot?
Have
So
like a home base kind of
like
thing?
a home base, and I loved my gym. So I was like, you know what, I'll do the odd road show. I like it, but I don't like it too often because this literally is the best place in the world. So I was happy about that. So my point of that is that I'm the happiest guy in the world. Eric Wellwood and I were just talking about that the other day.
Mhm.
There's opportunities to make lots of money in a lot of different places for me, but at the end of the day, this place, the way I have my business, I'm the happiest guy. So we're going back on the ice. So that was, I think, your question. Going back on the ice this week and getting back to normal. I was like, it was a little bit of a change because we've been in and out of work for the last year, 16, 17 months. And I know that we're getting to the end of this shit. So it was like the schedule had to change a bit. You know, instead of just coming here, working out, and then kind of easing into the day, I knew it was going to be like hard,
Yeah.
like giving her.
You're really jumping in. Yeah.
But man, that's what it was about. Remember the first day we saw each other at the end of the day because we got in here. Like, and the best thing is, right? Like, the best thing was or is that we got our crew in here in the morning working out at. You're here first right now because you got to get yours in. So you're here at what time do you get here? 6?
It's like 5:45.
Quarter to 6 in the morning. You're banging it out. So I get here at about 7 now to give Charlie a little bit of a sleep. And we have our crew in here, and the music's loud, the energy's high, everybody's working out, and we go right from there right to the on ice and groups in here, and it's like normal again. Like, it's so cool. And then coming back at the end of the night, having a meal, going to bed, knowing that you accomplished something again, it was great. And a side note on that is one of the big concerns that most people had, obviously, for hockey players was like, all this time off, how's this going to affect us? And, you know, I had my conversations with Charlie, speaking to him about, like, dude, you're going to be fine. I mean, it's not optimal to not be on the ice because that's what we love to do. And, you know, having all those touches on the ice is the best thing in the whole world, and it keeps you like in tune. But I said, I promise you that you'll take 20 minutes
Yeah, it comes back
to
quick.
start feeling right, and
sure.
a session or two before you actually are good. And that's what happened. The kids, like the first day, they didn't even look rusty, to be honest with you. They probably were. But by day 2, things were humming. And by day 3, we're ready to go.
Mhm.
And the key to that was a lot of the kids just stayed in shape. But the skill level, they didn't miss. And I said that to Charlie and a lot of the kids. I said, like, if you look at a guy that is playing hockey and he breaks his ankle or breaks his wrist and he can't skate he's out for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever, the career's not over. You get back to it, and it's just a matter of just getting your timing back. So that was good to see. The kids are back, and you know what? It's almost like they forgot about you talked about
man.
this, and
Oh yeah.
it's like it would be a blip, and it's almost like it's normal already after 5 days of work.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And that's exactly how it's going to end up feeling, even for us. Like, it's going to, like, as much of a pain in the ass as it is, like, I feel like we're older, so we can pay attention more, so we'll remember it a little bit more clearly than maybe some of the younger guys. Yeah. But it's going to be, like, by the end of the week, we were already like, man, like, it's nice to take the boots off. Like it's not we're already talking about like it's nice
Yeah.
to get a break or like
Yeah.
how much of a grind it is. It's like and
Yeah.
it was like we talked about in a podcast a while ago how it's it's crazy how fast you go back to normal
Yeah.
where it's like you
Yeah.
kind of start to take for granted a little bit what you have going on
Yeah.
because you're just back in the swing and
Yeah.
what was, you know, last week we couldn't do anything and now we're back full swing for just a couple days and it's like okay, like we're already back
Yeah.
to how it felt. But yeah, it was good. And it was nice to see the kids. One thing I want to say about the kids too is for some of the older guys, especially in that that draft, that group that just had their draft.
Yeah.
Some of those boys are getting strong, man.
It's incredible,
Like,
dude.
and you know what's funny is because this is my first like real crop of kids that I've had for a good chunk of time on my own to really like dial
Yeah.
in and focus on their
Yeah.
progress. And I'm not somebody like I've learned everything through like unconventional methods. Like I didn't go to school for anything. I didn't do any like actual like courses or like do a internship or a mentoring program with any trainer. Everything was just from training myself and reading things and trying things and talking to people like you and other guys.
Dalton was the biggest help.
Yeah,
ever.
Dalton was a big help too. But getting to see their progress in not even a year. Like these guys have been working out with me September,
Yeah.
some of them a little bit later, November,
Yeah.
some of them. And I remember what they were starting with, how they looked when they started, what they were lifting when they started, how hard they were able to go, what they were able to sustain. And
Yeah.
seeing that progress in such a short period of time, it just shows you like you lay the foundation properly where you learn how to do things correctly to start, and then your progress. It's not a linear. It's an exponential progress, especially when you're in your teenage years where you're just like an anabolic machine.
Yeah.
And everything that you eat, you use, and it's just a very efficient process. And so it's really nice to see that progress.
Well, part of what's nice about it, and Charlie and Seabass and Liam and like the kids in general, but the kids that I spend most of my time with, they drive with me and stuff. This is I'm not just pumping your tires here, but they obviously they grew up in PowerTech and they love the place and they're kind of familiar with it, and they've known you and stuff. But it's really important because we're going to be talking a lot about coaching today. Is what you bring to the table. Is that they said it's so nice to have a coach that we know cares. He wants us to succeed, and you ooze it with the kids. So because you go beyond above and beyond, right? You have them come in and get weighed. You take their body fat measurements. You check in with them, ask how they're eating, checking in on their sleep, and all these different things. Where you could just say, "Okay, here's your workout," and shut up and do it. And there's a huge difference. And for coaches or people that when you're trying to get results from people. And Eric Wellwood and I talked about this the other day. The big difference between getting results is when you actually care. You can coach and you can be the strength coach or you could be the skills coach, but when you actually don't, you're just doing it for the wrong reasons, the results will never be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And your process of speaking to the kids, you're a little closer to their age than I am, obviously, but you can relate to them and you're in great shape and they walk in here and they see everybody working out. It's like you've created an environment in here where they have no choice. If they don't succeed, it's just because they don't want to.
Yeah, it won't be a lack of resources. No, that's for sure.
But it's been, oh man, it's and what it does for me, like I'm very proud of what I've built, right? But this goes a long way, man. Like you can, because I've done this before. We've had people work here because we needed someone to work here, and they're not the right people. And to get the people that have the same values and principles and want to work as hard as and care about the business as much as I do, it's very rare. But when we get those people in place, it raises the level of everybody's results.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening right now. And it's just, it's always been that way, but the way you're doing it right now, it's like makes this business, whatever it was before, which was awesome. What you're bringing to it now it's taking it times 10.
Yeah.
And I mean it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And the kids love you. The kids love all the coaches because we have an incredible group of guys that care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very important because kids aren't stupid. If you're just getting them to lift weights and not paying attention to things, or not giving them reasons why they can get better, then they would just go through the motions. But
yeah,
it's so much better.
Well, I remember the reason that I'm like this, and it's probably similar. We've talked about this. I'll touch on it a bit before. Is that the thing that drives me? Like we talk about having purpose and those kind of things. The thing that drives me with this stuff in here is that I was them.
Yep.
You know, and I didn't have someone like me. I didn't have someone like you. I didn't have someone that I was able to talk to every day to get advice from, that would have those, 5-minute conversations or 10-minute conversations every week with me, that just keeps me on track or teaches me something new, or like keeps me away from something that is wrong in terms of my training or recovery or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's amazing you create that, a little bit of that environment, and it's amazing, like you were just saying, the kids, like they're not stupid, eh?
Nope.
And your environment always wins. Like what is in your environment will always shape what you're going to end up, how you're going to end up changing, and how you're going to end up growing over time.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the environment we've created in here, these guys, like they have such a unique opportunity where all of them are going to be in a position that they can succeed to some extent with what they're doing, because they're surrounded by people that are on the same page as them, are trying to do the same things. So now even with, and that's kind of the goal for me, like even with the business doing the stuff online, is that you can create even a virtual environment where they don't actually have to have 5 physical people in their environment, but they could have a group of people that they're just around online even. Like that's the magic of the internet, really, is like you can be in whatever environment you want, and there's no really limitation on that. And that's why with the Whoop now we got like 8 guys or something of these. They're kids. These are kids. And it's amazing. Like they want something challenging to do. Like they want something that's going to make them be better. Like it doesn't take much. It just takes a little bit of guidance and just giving them a little bit of a poke. And every single kid that I've dealt with, and it could be like a biased sample because they're all athletes, but every single kid that I've poked just a little bit, all of them want to be in this environment.
100%.
All of them want to be in this
Who
environment.
wouldn't, though?
Yeah.
Like my wife walks in here. She walked in here the other day to bring me a cup of coffee, and she walked out of here. Like she walked out. I think she got home and forgot her car.
Yeah.
She was so jacked.
Yeah.
Like you can't walk in here. You can't even walk in here when it's like kind of quiet and not get kind of motivated, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Let alone when you have people in music and people, like you just see the blood, sweat, and tears. That's what it is. You just see it. And Charlie and I were having that conversation. I don't know if I said this on a podcast before. And I would say the same for Seabass and Liam, like all of them. But like I'm saying for Charlie, because people were like congratulate. Like it's kind of funny, and I understand the intentions here, but people would say congratulations. You deserve it. No one deserves it more than you. Now the work starts, and so there's that, and then on the other side, people are like, I'm going to go to these games. I want to go to all the games. I want to watch, and we're going to have a great time. And it's like, this is what you don't understand is like, I'm going to as many games as I can, but it's not we're not going to have a big party fun. What people miss is that this is like hard work. Yeah. And Charlie and I were talking, and I go, explaining the process of how, this isn't a bad thing. Just people, how they, oh man, this is so cool and stuff, but they only see the result. Like I was saying about the iceberg to him. I said, you know what the iceberg is? He goes, yeah, they only see that much. 90%'s under the water. I said, yeah. I said, people have no idea. He goes, Dad, no idea. And for example, you've seen him buzzing around the ice. He's out there working out like hard, and then he at 6 hours every day on the ice, and he's like fresh as a daisy, loving it. It's so hard. But this environment here, it just propels people to do their best.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's your environment, and it's the people you're around. And if you're not in that environment, then I feel bad. Like I would love to just go around literally that 14 to 17 age group, and I'd love to see the work ratio between our place and I mean anywhere.
Yeah.
I'd love to see. I know what we're doing.
And that's what these kids, like, Charlie's in a unique position because he gets to be here all day.
Yeah.
But most of the
Since
kids,
he's 2 months old.
Most of the kids don't get that.
Yeah.
Most guys that are trying to pursue a sport or whatever, they don't get to be fully in the environment like this all the time. Right. And that's obviously a huge component of why Charlie has been able to accomplish what he's accomplished so 100%. Far. But for these other kids, that's the whole point of doing this stuff where we're in constant contact.
Yeah.
Right? Because they go home and maybe mom and dad don't want to eat right.
Yeah.
Or maybe their siblings are doing whatever on whatever night and they're staying up late or whatever that is. So now you get something like the Whoop where you see 8 of your buddies and how are they sleeping during the week? And then are my numbers bad compared to theirs? Because it's like that podcast we did about comparing yourself.
Yeah.
Like this is a good example of a good comparison, right? It's like you're watching their habits. You get to see their habits every day. And these are all the elite guys of your age group in the area.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the elite guys in Ontario or anything, but it's a start. It's a great place to start where you're looking at some guys that you feel you might be competitive with in some way, and you get to see and measure when you're not here.
Yeah.
Because I always say to the guys when they come in and they do their workout, it's like, it doesn't matter how hard you work out in here because you're in here for an hour and a half every day.
Yeah.
That's a lot of day to ruin it when you're not here, you know? So you have an hour and a half to do your workout. You still have the whole day.
Yeah, you could ruin it the second you walk out of the door.
You eat like an asshole, you have 5 beers, you go do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now it didn't matter. It doesn't matter how hard. You can't out-train bad habits like that, right?
No.
You can't out-train your a poor environment.
Yeah.
So that's why like this thing that we got going, man, it's awesome. And right now it's a different situation because we basically have to run everything kind of all smushed together where they're on the ice, and so they do get to be here for a good chunk of time. But normally it's really important for people that are listening. Like you need to have an environment that is aligning you with what you want to do, or you lose. You're going to lose. It's impossible. It's too hard. Even if you have the right environment, you'll still probably lose, you know? So you need to have everything going your way in order to achieve anything that's in any way difficult.
That's why you want to control who you're with. It's critical. I mean, you show me your friends, I'll show you your future, period. Mm-hmm. And that's the bottom line. Like, guys, success leaves clues. We say it all the time. Mm-hmm. Success leaves clues.
Yep.
And we have a lot of success. You might want to hang around.
Yeah, it's a great environment, man, for sure.
Yeah.
I had one other thing I was going to throw at you, but if you have something else you want to get into, you can.
Well,
I
got some news.
Okay.
That one of my best friends ever, Dalton Prout, got hired as a pro scout.
Oh yeah.
With the Florida Panthers, so he's been doing that this week, and he was actually looking at getting into player development, which would be so great because he sees the flaws in the disconnect between coaches and players. And as a player development guy, he would have been great, and he's still going to get in there. But Florida said, let's start with this, be a pro scout. So he's going to just watch a lot of hockey, and he'll be awesome. Dalton's awesome.
That's awesome.
But here's the lesson with that: a lot of guys sit around. So remember, Dalton was asking me as a friend, and he respects what I do and stuff. He said, how should I go about this? And I said, well, don't just send emails. Make sure you're making phone calls. So he set a goal every day to call X amount of people in the NHL to see what's available and stuff. And he even asked them, like, what would you do if you were me? And then blah, 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 blah. It lined up. Didn't take him long. He got his first NHL job outside of playing. So really proud of Dalton, and he's going to be great. And I always knew he was going to succeed. Mm-hmm. And it's great. And then the only other thing, I don't want to talk. I could talk about the other thing, but I don't need to.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that's. I didn't actually know that. I was going to send a message after. That's awesome.
Well, I didn't want to say it because he said he told me he got it. He was going to take a day to think about it, and then he was in Florida, went through the meetings, like actual meetings.
So they're going to move there now?
Nope.
No, just
a lot of travel though.
Travel.
Yeah, from his home base. Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, he'll be good. Hopefully, I really hope that he does end up getting. If he wants to go into player development, I hope he does, because he's a guy that can have like good impact on young professionals.
Yeah.
See, this is what's cool is, like, I was gonna say this actually earlier when you were talking, I forgot, but I just remembered it now. The nice thing too about having like the environment that's like this is we don't pretend to be like the most knowledgeable ever in areas that we're not the most knowledgeable on. So like for me, I'm not the most knowledgeable on anything. So I'm starting to learn a lot, and I'm starting to have like a good foundation of things.
Not the dumbest.
No, well, like, I'm not an idiot, but I'm not like a PhD, whatever, in exercise science or in whatever.
Screw that, because honestly, this is my statement with that, is sometimes education gets in the way of success.
Well, and that's what my point of saying that is, the fact that we care can make up for a lot of that, because we're honest and we care. Those are the two biggest pieces, because for me, like even with the kids here, like sometimes they'll come ask me questions about certain workout things.
Right.
And they'll say, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah, you can't.
And
you can't know everything.
Yeah, I don't know everything. I'm just starting. It's impossible. So I'm not going to blow some fluff and say that make up some reason that they would probably believe because I told them, but I don't actually know. And it's amazing, like that little bit of caring that you can give to a situation, and then that honesty to be able to say I don't actually know. Like that's a huge benefit to have, because now you know you're not getting bullshit when you're asking somebody a question about how you're progressing. And
100%.
And that I don't remember how I was relating that back to Dalton now, but whatever.
I don't know. I don't remember either.
I had one other thing. I don't know if I want to talk about.
Just throw it out.
It's a little bit off topic, but I was going to say to start to get you warmed up. But I'll do it anyways because it's interesting.
Good.
It's interesting. I think you'll like it. So, complete different direction from where we've been talking. But so when I had an interesting conversation on the weekend with one of my cousins. We had a little family thing in the backyard, and she's been trying to do some things to like get in better shape and take care of herself a little bit more and whatever. And she was asking me about running and if she should be going for runs or should she walk or should she do cardio versus strength train. And this was kind of her question. And she's coming from like a place of not having much knowledge about any of this stuff, like whether it's nutrition or fitness or whatever. Yeah. And so when she asked me the question, I was in a difficult position because there's an answer that's technically correct, and then there's an answer that's like appropriate for what she's trying to do. Yeah. So it reminded me when I was in engineering school, something that used to always piss me off is, not really, but it was just annoying. When I would ask a question, a lot of times the answer that the professor would give me would be, well, it depends on what you're trying to do. Right. So there was never like a straight answer, which was me being like more of a math oriented mindset. There's always a right answer. Right. And I just want the answer, but life is complicated. So there's usually not just a one correct answer. The answer is normally it depends on what you're trying to do. Yeah. And that's something that I learned from going through engineering school, which you wouldn't really think would apply to everything, but it actually applies to everything. So for example, the one thing that I had a hard time grasping, and no one's really going to understand what this means necessarily, but in engineering, you can design a circuit that's called a filter. And
I know what that is.
And basically all it does is it isolates which frequency you want to actually receive or you want to get rid of. So in the air, all the noise that's floating around, you don't want to receive that on your end. You want to receive something specific. So you design a filter that will only take that signal in. Okay. So then my question a lot of time would be like, well, how do you design it? Like, what do you do? And the answer was always, well, it depends which thing you want to get. Like, are you trying to receive something? Are you trying to filter something out? Are you looking for a specific range of things? Or are you looking for one thing, right? And then how much are you willing to pay for it? How much accuracy do you need? Like, because the more precise, obviously, the more expensive things are going to get. Sure. So how well do you actually need it to work? Can you get by with this, or do you need something better, kind of thing, right? Right. So there's all these variables, and there's this like cost analysis to everything, and it was like every single nothing was ever straightforward. Right. So it was just obnoxious because it's like I just want one answer, but the answer is there's not one answer, and it's so parallel to like everything that we teach. So back to this conversation I was having with my cousin, she was asking me, so should I be doing more cardio or should I be doing more strength training? And the answer is, to me, for long-term success, is you want to be doing more like strength training, less cardio overall, because you want to, what's going to help you keep more weight off is you put muscle on, because that burns more, that'll increase your metabolic rate as you put more muscle on. And over time, it prevents all kinds of other things, the fact that you have muscle mass and muscle mass and whatever. Yeah. But for her, she has no experience doing strength training, and cardio is very easy and accessible always.
She might hate strength training.
She might hate strength training. She might also hate cardio. Yep. But in her position where she wants to lose a little bit of weight first before she starts maybe actually handling some weights, and to get like a little bit of an early boost from someone who doesn't move a whole lot, the more appropriate answer for her was, you should be doing some cardio. Because you don't need anything. There's no equipment required. And coming from a position where you don't move much, the first thing would be, let's get moving, right? For sure. Let's walk. Let's do things where we're just moving throughout the day. So when she asks me the question, so I have to try to answer this question without, I don't want to give her the wrong answer. Yeah. I want to give her the appropriate answer, right? So I had to go through this. So we talked for like 10 minutes about it. And I was trying to you want to not overwhelm the system with information, right? But it was just a a cool example of how it's always it depends. It's always it depends. And it made me think about the guys in here when they're working out or when they're on the ice trying to achieve something specific. It's really important that you have defined like what it is you're trying to accomplish. It's really important because if you don't have that, then you're going to be misdirected in what you're trying and the process that you're taking to get there. Does that make sense?
What that throws out to me is like a lot of people say, how do you shoot? Well, that's a loaded question because I'll give you 25 different shots right now. Which one do you need to use?
That's right.
What if you could show a shot that is maybe used more frequently, but if you catch a pass in a different area, like where it's not optimal for that shot, then what do? Shoot that shot? No. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it depends.
It depends.
And I use that all the time too. Well, it totally depends. There's so many different variables.
That's right.
Do you have time to use deception? Do you have time to? Do you not have time? Do you have to get it off quick? Sometimes you just have to get it off quick, so there's no art to it whatsoever. And then you'll see goals that are so unconventional. Like Welly was showing one of the kids the other day how you have to get it off. So he would do a stick and he'll make a move. He'd be totally off balance, and they'd stick to that side and just slap it, and then it would be a nice hard shot. Like it's not wrong. So it all depends.
Yeah,
totally depends.
I know, and I always relate it to the fitness stuff. I relate it to everything. Oh, yeah. Like a big one now I got with some of the kids because they're getting a little bit older is, what kind of pre-workout should I use?
Yeah.
And so my first question is always, okay, like why do you want to use a pre-workout?
Yeah.
That's the question. Yeah. And most of them haven't asked the question. They just think I need to use a pre-workout because people start to use pre-workouts now, or when you're training, what kind of training are you trying to do?
Yeah.
It's like, so in my program for hockey players, there's not one isolated arm movement in the whole program.
Right.
None. You get indirect arms through other things.
Yeah.
And should I have arms included in the program? I don't think so. Because why do you need to do a strict bicep curl?
Yeah, it's not
ever.
Necessary.
Why would I spend like the bang for your buck? Like why would I spend time?
Yeah.
And like if you want to do arms, do like an accessory workout on your own time. Like when you come in here to work out to be a hockey player, that's not an important thing.
Not at all.
Well, it's like, but I want to have nice arms. It's like, okay, well, do you want to have nice arms or do you want to play hockey?
That's right.
And so you need to have. That was just a good lesson. Like you need to have what you're trying to accomplish really defined because then that's going to change what your process is.
100%.
So as for the young guys, especially as they're starting to learn about this stuff. And I have some younger groups that come in now that are starting to lay the foundation. So I had one kid yesterday asking me about the pre-workouts. And I said, okay, like you're 14, maybe 15, and you're not even able to fully work out yet because you don't know how to work out properly. You don't know how to move your body properly.
Yeah.
So for you to go spend 30, 40, 50 bucks on a pre-workout, like you're not really getting your money's worth because you're not actually starting to try to progress with weights or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, you don't really need to be taking stimulants or all that other stuff too.
Yeah.
But it was just, so anyways, that conversation that I had with my cousin, it was a good example of, just having that kind of stuff defined. So that's all I was throwing out.
Yeah. And I get that question a lot too.
Yeah. It depends,
What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And it's like, really just do something. And they're not dumb questions. They're asking very legitimate
things. They just don't know yet. Yeah.
It's just like anything, right? People get horny real quick.
Yeah.
But then they fizzle out because they bit off more they can chew, or
right.
they just actually not ready, or they didn't actually make a decision. So it's a never-ending loop of disappointments. They disappoint themselves or can't keep their commitments. Yeah. So it's like we said several times, you do the low-hanging fruit, just start moving and then add to it.
Yeah.
Add this and eliminate that a little bit, slowly but surely, and long-term and I changed my workouts and my philosophy a little bit over the last year and a half. It's because you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Like I'm an all or nothing guy. Like it's all or it's nothing.
I hear you.
And then I was like, okay, so I'm not gonna not ever have it. Is that a sentence? I'm not gonna live my life. And Jonesy brings, hey, come on over. Why don't you pop in and have a beer? And just say, no, I can never have a beer because I need to be 8% body fat. Like, why would I need to be 8% body fat? Mm-hmm. Right? And then why do I need to be 35% body fat either? Right? So there's a happy medium for me, and my workouts have changed because, like I was like a strength training guy, like just being very strong. And I realized, okay, I'm just going to change it up a bit. I do a little bit more, if you want to call it functional training or aerobic
mobility,
but lifting, and it's like, and I'm really enjoying it. So I will take my enjoyment of my workouts. They're good, they're hard, and I'll take that over, just doing heavy weights anymore. For now. I
Yeah,
might change again.
totally.
I
And
might just start jogging one day, be Forrest Gump for a while.
yeah,
Like, I don't know,
yeah. Well, that's
things change and it's okay.
and
I'm
that
moving.
it's
I'm
not
healthy.
just for athletes. That's
Right.
right. That's what I'm
Right.
taking off what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
Is it's not just, it doesn't matter if you could be an adult, you can be a kid, you can be at whatever stage of
Yeah.
your life, you can be studying for something, you could be whatever, but you need to have, what are your goals? Like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to do? And that's the first question. When you have a question, that's the first, basically that's the moral of my story here. When the answer is it depends, because it depends on what you're trying to do. So if you have something in mind you want to accomplish, it's like, or something you're thinking about starting to do, it's like, okay, well, why am I starting to do this? Like, what, we always say that, start with why, right? Like,
Always start with
why do you want to do the thing you're saying?
Yeah.
And then you use that to shape how you're going to go through the process of doing that. So like, easy thing for me, like fitness is an easy one, but in the summertime, I like to move a little bit more because I like to be leaner through the summer. Then in the winter, I like to slow it down and experiment and do different things. And it's not as busy in the wintertime as it is during the summertime in here. So all these things are factors in what I'm going to try to do with this time I have in fitness.
Yeah.
And you used to do the same thing with studying. Used to, even in that's where I learned this philosophy is in engineering. And it's like, okay, I have 6 classes. It's an impossible workload. I can't do all of it. Okay, so which things are important? Like what do I care most about developing in terms of my technical skills within this subject? And that's where I would allocate more of my time to do those things. That doesn't mean I didn't do the other things, but I just skewed my attention towards the things that mattered more to me at the time. And that was because I had that kind of outlined in my head of what I wanted. So make sure asking yourself those questions and being thoughtful about your own process, I think is really important.
Yeah. I could tell you I feel good. I love what I do. Like, I love teaching hockey to hockey players the way I do it. And in order for me to do that, like, is there supposed to be a time limit? Like, am I supposed to be done at 50 or 55?
Yeah.
60? I said I had a goal of doing it till I'm 80. I know that sounds funny, but it's an actual goal. Now, I'm pretty sure at 80, I'm not going to be going out there with, out there and wheeling around and, having my chicken skin flapping around, one hair sticking out. But I will still have the ability, if I keep my brain sharp and keep somewhat mobile, I'll still be able to do some. And it might be funny or whatever, but that's my goal and that's cool. So if I want to do that, I can do that. So in order for me to do this to 55, though, like I'm 52, I'm going to have to stay in somewhat good shape.
Yep.
And if I want to do it till 60, I'm going to have to stay in good shape. So I feel like $1 million and I'm proud of it.
What's funny, as people get older, that there's the default, well, you start to get older.
Yeah, shut up.
It's like, that's just not, it's not, that doesn't have to be true.
Shut up.
Just doesn't have to be true.
Listen to you.
Yeah.
I don't listen to anybody.
I know.
I don't.
That's good. So yeah, that's what I got to start off with. You want to get into
Well, we decided we're going to talk a little about coaching. Yeah, so when it comes to coaching, I think one of the things that you put down is like how to understand players or whatever. But I said the first thing that I think is important when it comes to coaching is very much like here in PowerTech, is that the leaders create the environment. And I saw that with Charlie's team with Guelph. Is George is very, where you stand. So I can tell right now what type of team that he's going to have. It's like there's no nonsense. You're here to be a pro, and that's what it is. So you're going to have that type of atmosphere, which is good. And the leader's going to create the environment. So as a coach, you're going to set the tone for your environment. So I think it's number one important that if you want a team that goofs around and jokes around and whatever, then that's your leadership quality. That's what you're going to get. But if you have somewhere in the middle, so anyways, you got to decide what type of team you want. Or you got to look at a philosophy. That's a better way of saying it. You have to have a philosophy when you go and take a team. So what's a philosophy? A philosophy is you got to be able to match the personnel, like your philosophy with your personnel, right? So you can't sit there and say, okay, I want to every team like. So that's where coaches, if they only know how to coach one way or they have only one personality, then they're when they don't have the right personnel, they're not going to have any success. Now, depending on what level of hockey we're talking about, it'll have a little bit of variation. But I'm talking more like youth hockey, because most people aren't going to be coaching the NHL anyways.
Yep.
So when you're coaching youth hockey, like it's a great experience, but if you want to have some success, and what I guess that's the other question is, what is success and what is your philosophy? So if your philosophy is to make sure that you win, then that's going to be a whole different philosophy than developing players or
Right.
whatever, right? So that philosophy is important. But so I look at number one is again why am I coaching, and that's your philosophy. So I always look at the level of talent I have on a team. Is it a fast team? Is it a big team? Is it a slow team? Are we a bunch of ham and eggers? Like whatever it is, then you have to build around that. So, like I said, I think I said before, I coached Charlie when he was really young and wasn't a very good team, but we worked on specific things to make them good, like to make them work within their skill. And then I had other teams that I've coached that were like really, really skilled. So I had a different philosophy for coaching them.
Okay, so let me cut in on that.
Yeah.
So I want you to walk through actually Charlie's for like that team he played for in when it was AA team. It was before he was AAA, right?
Yeah, it was
So
SSA.
yeah, so walk through when you first started as a coach there.
Yeah.
Kind of what? So these, first of all, how old? 8, 9?
They were minor out of 8.
Okay,
8
so
and 9.
So eight. So we're talking
9.
8 and 9-year-olds. They're playing
Yeah.
travel, so it's like a little bit competitive, but nothing like super serious, and they're very young. So actually go through like real quick just the steps. So you get this team. Like, what are you thinking about to the point that you were just making, like coming up with kind of like a team identity, more or less. So what did you see, and then how did that thought process lead you to kind of come up with a plan for developing that team?
Okay, so the I didn't want to coach. That's number one. But when I took the team, I went out for the first practice. So in the first tryout, and we had 17 people try out. So I had to cut one kid or two. So that was fun. And one of the kids I cut was on the team the year before.
Yeah.
But my philosophy, okay, so there's a philosophy right there. When I took the team, it's like I had to be true to, like, you're coaching a team, so now I had to make a decision. Am I just going to keep the same guys, or am I going to say am I going to go? I have to cut somebody. So this kid deserves it. So I have to cut a kid from that was on the team last year, because I had to be responsible, number one, to the players, and I had to be responsible to the board. They hired me to do it, so I got to do a good job.
So sorry to cut you off, but
No,
so despite the fact that you didn't want to coach, now you're coaching.
Yeah.
So now we're buying in to making sure that we're making this the best environment possible.
100%.
So now we're taking this serious. It's not just I'm just doing it because my kid's on the team. Now it's like, okay, let's try to get the most out of the situation.
There's nothing worse to me than a guy that coaches for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Because it comes out in the wash, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just coaching just to make sure your kid has a spot, or you're just coaching because whatever those reasons are, it shows. So no, I take it very seriously. Plus, I have a very successful business that, it was like you can't be a jackass. But that's my nature, right? Is to be it's always my philosophy in life is to make other people better. So when I choose to do that, I chose to make everybody around me better.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that was number one. So then we had our first tryout, and I'm like, wow, like we had to split the teams in half and play 3-on-3 or 4-on-4, and it's like, wow. So we did our first practice, and I was really didn't know what to do, because I'm thinking the base level of this has got to be okay, at least this. So I went out there, and there's kids that couldn't do crossovers, and I'm like, oh boy. And I went to the other coaches. I said, oh, this is tough. And right there, I was like, I don't want to do this. But I was committed now. I think it's going to be a long year. But I sat back and I said, okay, this is what I have, though. Okay, they can't pass a puck.
Here's your cards.
Here's my cards.
Yeah.
Here's my cards. So I looked at it and I'm like, they can't skate. So I knew, okay, I'm going to have to do a lot of skill work with skating. But now I also know that if we have 2 or 3 hours of practice a week, and if I do an hour or 2 of it just skating, that's a great way to have kids quit or not buy in.
Right.
So I knew I had to make it like a good pace and do some skill work where they're going to by default just get better, because you're not going to improve everybody immensely by doing specific drills. So anyways, and then the other thing I looked at is they can't move a puck at all. So I'm going to spend time on being a really good puck moving team, at least to a certain level. And then my last thing was there's very little skill. So I'm going to have to teach them a little bit of hockey. And I thought that was actually really important, even at a young level, because I think a lot of people, you'll hear arguments about, should you teach systems or should you not? Well, the bottom line is you're teaching hockey. If you're coaching hockey. So they have to learn a little bit of hockey to make them better hockey players. And then you never know where it's going to go. So I looked at it and I said, I'm going to teach them a little bit of systems. I am not talking. Well, actually, we got pretty good. But I said, okay, we're not going to score a lot of goals, so we're going to have to be defensively decent. So I gave him a little bit of structure, a neutral zone structure, and an offensive zone, a defensive offensive zone, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so that was the philosophy that I worked on from there.
Okay.
And, okay. Did I go off topic?
No. You're great on. You're dialed in, man.
Okay.
This is good.
Okay.
So just to summarize what you just said, so you see your team, you don't have a lot of skill. You didn't have a lot of players to pull from, so you can't have a lot of skill. So then you realize, okay, this isn't a team that's skilled. They're not good with puck skills. They're not good at passing. They're not good at skating. Okay, so now I know that I have.
They're not good at hockey.
They're not good at hockey yet. Yeah, and they're 8. So
That's right.
So not only are they not good at the skills, but you also are in a position where I need to also make this kind of fun because they're little kids.
Yep.
So you identified those 2 issues, and now you're like, okay, so I need to work on skills. But we can't just do skills because it is a team and they're going to not want to play. Like, it's because it's not fun if you're just hammering skills all the time. Yeah. Okay. So
you're not going to be a good hockey player by doing tight turns on cones.
Right. That's right. So then, and then you mentioned you need to teach them some hockey.
Yes.
And in that you're talking about a little bit of system play, like where you're kind of moving as a unit and playing together rather than, because a lot of times coaches, especially when the kids are young, is you just get by on skill. Yes. So whoever the best player is, it's just get them to score, and you kind of leave everyone behind. You don't really teach that flow of like, you're our best player, sure, but if you use your D, then you'll open up some space over here or something or whatever. And even if those D aren't great, if you can get them to a level where they can just move the puck well, or they can just make a basic pass or whatever, or make a little bit of a play. Yeah. Now those guys, even though they're maybe not as good as your top guy who's 8 years old, you can still get everyone involved, and now you're starting to play hockey like a team, like you're doing some team things. Yeah. So that's awesome. So then the next part I wanted to talk to you about, because I find with young teams, especially coaches that don't have a lot of experience and they can't really teach the hockey part, they default to like work ethic, to work hard and that kind of stuff. So where did the work ethic thing kind of play into you? Like, how did you talk to the team about that? Again, because they're 8. Was that a factor? Was it not a factor at all? Like, how did that play into your thinking about how to teach the kids?
Yeah, it was always a big thing. Like, I know what you're saying about, work hard. What does actually work hard mean? Like,
because it is important, and it's important to teach the kids. But how you go about it.
That was my other philosophy, but that's not like I designed it. It's just who I am. Like our coaches said, like you can. When I speak to people from my heart, especially my players, and I can bring a tear to a glass eye. Like I get in their souls. Yeah. I do. I get in people's souls, and I can make people people do things they're not typically willing to do or try things because they actually end up believing in themselves. So that was one of my things, is I always had a story for them, always. So I had slogans for them that they can understand, and they thought, that they could kind of live by. And the kids, I know they still remember a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
So I would have a story every single day that would just get them, because they're kids. They might not be on that day, but I knew that. But the other thing was, the kids will work hard if you give them a purpose. So there was some kids, like it would have been very easy to let, like my son have all the glory, and there's Cohen that could score some goals, and there's a few guys that were like really good. And if I just gave the praise to them and let them carry the load, even at 8 years old and 9 years old, the other kids don't. Why would they work hard, or what is working hard? But then when I would, so this is like, you have your philosophy, then you have to spend time with kids individually. So one of the best things I did with that individual or that group is I took them individually, and I each gave them roles and explained to them what they're really good at. So I had some guys that, like, there was one, he was a forward, and he had some pretty good speed, but he had zero hockey brain whatsoever, like zero. So no matter what we would do system wise, and it wasn't that complicated, but system wise, he would just be
just drill buster.
Didn't matter. So I said, okay, well, you're gonna hound dog the puck. That's all you're gonna do when you're on the ice. Don't worry about the system. Well, whoever's playing with them, they're going to do their job. You just go chase that puck around. And he became like a really good penalty killer. Not because he was smart, just because he was fast and he'd get all over the pucks. And, you get a puck and you'd have a 2-on-0 and he'd try to score and miss the net and whatever. And he got the odd goal or whatever, but he became effective. But what was important with that, or then we'd have another forward that I'd just say block a shot. And I would explain to the kids when this guy gets in a shot lane or he gets the puck out, like, guys, I want you standing up cheering, and that's what the kids did. So all of a sudden, what happens is your worst players, if you want to call them that, aren't your worst players anymore, or they're not your most skilled player.
You make them valuable.
You make them valuable. So all of a sudden, they feel like they're actually important. So because it's so like, even, you watch the highlights on TV and it's always, Ovechkin this, the McDavid this and all that, but people don't really always point out what also happened, right? Someone else has to do the work. Like, so, and you're not gonna, well, I'll use McDavid for an example. Like the Oilers, like, he's obviously one of the best players in the NHL probably ever, but they haven't won anything yet. And if he's the best player, why haven't they won? Well, are the supporting cast doing enough? Do they need a better supporting cast?
There's more to the game.
Obviously need more to it. Yeah. So anyways, I had every kid on that team feel like they were important, and then they would show up to play every single day in practice. And I would, and they knew I cared about how well they did. So they would show up at 8 years old and they'd want to play and they wanted to win. And then they just started to believe in themselves.
Right. Okay. So that's so good.
Is
Okay.
it?
So, oh yeah. So a couple things off that. So
Okay.
at first you were talking about, you always had a story for them, or you would give them like little slogans or whatever. But for you, like, you're a particularly motivating person because you're passionate about teaching and getting into this.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who isn't necessarily like that, where you're not like an inspiring, not like saying you're a jerk or anything, but like, if you're not a
I get what you're saying.
If you're not an inspiring person, or you're not someone who is motivating, or you don't have that ability to maybe like be a little bit motivational with a little bit of rah-rah or anything like that, then what you followed up with was saying kids will work hard if you give them a purpose.
Yes.
So even if you're someone who maybe doesn't have the ability to tell stories well, or to say something that's really motivating, or even if maybe you think you are, but you're not, right? Yeah. Because it takes some self-awareness, because some people think they are, but they're not.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that even with the story, if you're good at telling stories, is you're giving them a purpose. You're giving them a reason to work hard.
Yeah.
So whatever that reason ends up being, whatever their purpose is that they're working towards, you actually give them something that makes them understand why it's important to really try hard, and you try to convey that message. So that was like the first thing I pulled out of what you said. And then the second thing you started to touch on was coaching kind of individually, like talking to kids individually, and within the context of the team, you still have to treat everybody as an individual, because certain kids are better at different things.
Absolutely.
So another thing you said was you found a strength with each of the kids, because you picked all of them, and obviously you didn't have a big pool to pick from, but every kid will be good at something different. Some kids are good at multiple things, some kids aren't. But even those kids that weren't particularly strong, you took maybe the one thing that you identified as them being decent at, and you plug that, right? And you poke that, and you let that go. And this is where the being a good coach part, or the coaching part, comes in, because like you were just saying, the roles and having a role on a team, like, it's never too early to start that. So even we're talking about 8-year-olds, it's important to know, like, you don't just have to be a goal scorer. Like, you can start to be good at something else now. Yeah. Maybe later on you get a little bit more skill and you can start to integrate some of that into your game. But if you're really fast and you can really get after the puck and peel it off, guys, like Pavel Datsyuk, man, like, that was one of the strongest parts of his game. As great as his hands were, and as he could make awesome plays, he could pick pucks off guys. Yeah. And he was he was turnover king, man. He was making turnovers all over the ice. Yeah. And that was something that people didn't talk so much about, because he was so good at these other things. But that part of him creating turnovers, like, that got him the puck way more times to make those plays. So you get somebody, like you said, the one kid who could hound dog pucks and go get and peel them off guys. That's a great, or the kid that's blocking shots. That's awesome, where you're like, okay, you can do that. You're good at that. You're not scared to get in front of the puck. So go get in front of it. Like, you do that. Like, you're good at that.
And,
go do that.
Teach them how.
Right.
But that's the other thing, is like, you have to, like, invest a little bit of time in them. Mm-hmm. If you invest a little bit of time in your kids, it's going to be great. I mean, I did video with them. Yeah. I would, and not like, people think video, what clips? No. I'd show a game, and I'd start from, and they loved it. I didn't think they would, but they wanted to. I said, you guys want to see video? So I can show you what you're doing good and bad? Yeah. So we'd sit there, and I'd go through maybe 2 minutes of a game. It would take, and they didn't want to leave, because they would see themselves, and I would, oh, this is what you did well. Oh, what did we do wrong? And they would just teach each other out loud. Mm-hmm. Oh, coach, I know. He wasn't lined up right beside the guy in the face-off. That's right. And what's important about that? Oh, we have to make sure on a face-off, we always assume that we're going to lose or be a 50-50 battle. Okay, so if it's a 50-50 battle, if we're in the right position, what happens? Then we have possession of the puck. Okay, if we have possession of the puck, what happens?
Mm-hmm.
Then we can control the game. Awesome, guys. Okay, so, and then we'd go 3 seconds. Okay, puck went back to the D. Where are we located? Can we make a pass? Do you see where we are? And we'd go through, and all the kids would get engaged.
Right.
So it was really important.
Yeah,
It was so simple.
And you don't have to, like, because you're, again, like, you know hockey and you know how to teach these things. And if you're, Joe Dad that doesn't necessarily know all the technical, I'm not saying you have to do video with your 8-year-olds, but
No.
but the bottom line is, you're, like you said, you're communicating to them things that are valuable, things that aren't.
Yes.
Where did you make a mistake? Where did you think that's proper?
Yes.
And you're identifying where each kid can be successful.
Yes.
On your team, and then you're putting them into that role.
Yes.
And then the other thing you said was the kid that goes and blocks a shot, you want make sure the boys are up and cheering for him and whatever.
Yes.
Not only are you teaching that kid that thing you're good at is valuable, you're teaching the rest of the team that thing that kid is good at is valuable.
Right.
And now you're creating a team atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's
guess what happens to the competitive kid, like that blonde kid that lives with me. He's competitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, especially being a young little kid, someone's going to get high-fived and cheered and praised for blocking a shot or an incredible back check. Guess what he's going to do?
Yeah.
So now you take your weakest guy or your weaker guys, do something and they're getting praised. Well, the competitive kid that wants to be the best in the whole world says, well, I want to get praised too, because everybody lives for it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to back check hard. I'm going to block a shot. I'm going to chip one out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back and gets that. So now you raise the tide.
Yeah.
Right.
That's an awesome point.
So it kind of works together because, just because a guy doesn't, the goal scorer wants to be the best at everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes the whole team better by default.
That's right. And that's so awesome, man. I didn't even think of that point, but that's exactly what will happen, because not everyone is going to be good enough to score all the goals.
Yeah.
But as soon as you point out something else that's valuable, maybe that kid that scores all the goals but never back checks, maybe that inspires him to start back checking because it gets the boys fired up.
Yeah.
And
it's like, if you watch highlights, and I've done this before with my leadership camp that I did, there was a clip of, like, everybody's seen the clip where, it's the Doug Flutie Hail Mary.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Oh yeah.
Or the Bobby Orr overtime goal. It's like, that's like the pinnacle of, okay, we win. And that's like obviously a nice clip to show, right? That Hail Mary, catch 0 on the clock, and they win the whatever bowl it was.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. But I've shown clips of with the New England Patriots losing whatever, and this guy going for a touchdown, and the guy on the Patriots is coming back, full out effort. This guy thinks he's got it, and then boom, knocks him out of bounds, and it's like everyone's like, wow, the effort, like, and it brings out, those are the clips that get you.
Yeah, 100%.
So when kids see that, the stuff that aren't the obvious and you get praised for, that's when it's going to get.
Well, I got a cool story about that. It just reminded me when I was a kid, I didn't know, like, everyone, because this is the thing, like, everyone always says you need to work hard and work, like, you have to try hard, give it your all, like all these little slogans. But when you're 8, you don't necessarily know what that means, and you don't know how to work hard. Like, that's actually something you need to learn how to do. Like, how do I try as hard as I can? I don't actually know.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember when I was a kid not knowing what that meant. Like, I remember that. Like, okay, I feel like I'm working hard. Like, why am I not working hard? Like, I think I'm working hard. But there's a difference between, like, I'm out playing and I'm trying, to, like, I'm giving it. Like, I'm actually giving everything I got. There's nothing left in the tank at the end. And we don't have the vocabulary to explain how to do that in our language.
Right.
So you show clips like that, and then it's like, oh, like, he's working hard. Yeah. I'm not working hard.
Right.
And I remember the one that did it for me. I remember watching Steve Yzerman was my favorite player growing up. So I used to go when the YouTubes started to be a thing.
Yeah.
In like 2008 or 9.
Yeah.
I used to go on and I would try to find videos of Steve Yzerman, like highlight reels of Steve Yzerman. Yeah. And I would just sit, like, as my pregame, like before our games, and I would sit and I would watch for a couple minutes. And I still remember to this day one clip that I saw, and he had really bad knees. So towards the end of his career, and I remember knowing that when I started to pay attention, that his knees weren't good, and he's had a bunch of surgeries and whatever. And I remember seeing a clip that he blocked a shot, then got it out of his zone at the end of a shift. So he was like covering for a winger, which he's a centerman, was covering for a winger. So that's one part. Blocked a shot, second part. Got the puck out. That was the third part. Has no knees.
Yeah.
And was like absolutely dead gassed. So he blocks this shot, gets it out, or something along those lines, and then went right to the bench to change.
Yeah.
And the camera stayed on him.
Right.
And so he goes and sits down on the bench, and both of his knees are just gone. And I remember him looking like, this guy literally just has nothing that he could possibly give left in the tank. And that was like the moment I realized what it actually meant to actually try hard and to actually work.
No, but that's the point. Like, you watch a Steve Yzerman thing and you go, wow, that inspired you, and it showed you, and that's important. And then that's something coaches can do, and that's players should do that too, is they should look for clips that inspire them.
Yeah.
And then if you're a coach that can actually show how to channel that energy, then it makes it a little bit, well, it makes it actually very,
it's cool.
Very effective.
Yeah.
Right?
Man, I still remember his face. I can still see his face. I remember thinking in my head, like, my face has never looked like that after a shift.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that. Like, I don't know what it's like to feel like that.
Yeah.
I've been playing hockey for 10 years already.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that feels like. And his face was just like, he needs an oxygen mask. Like, someone help this man. Like, that's literally what I was thinking watching it, you know?
Or you see Campbell blocking 3 shots with a broken leg and stuff
like
that. Like, that's hockey. And I Charlie went through that experience too. It was like his minor Bantam year where he was doing really well. I've talked about this before. He was doing really well, but I knew that there was another level that he just didn't understand yet. Just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I just said, Charlie, he asked me the one day, he goes, am I playing good? I said, yep. And he knew that there was something, because I'm not going to be the jackass dad. He goes, but what? There's something more, Dad. And I go, yep. I said, I'm just going to say it. I know when it clicks and you go to a different level, you can get to a different level, and it's a determination level. There's an undeniable level that you are able to get to. And when you do that, those are your best shifts. And I said, you have to understand that that has to be your best shift all the time. And you can do that. You have to learn how to channel that. And he actually just learned how to do it.
Yeah.
He learned how to do it.
Well,
and I use an example, like, why is it that in a overtime game or with a minute left and you're fighting for your life to win or lose or whatever it is, why is it that there's a whole different level of urgency? You see everybody, or why is it when you kill a penalty, you can keep the puck out of your end, right? Because you're dialed in with a purpose, and you're working your ass off to kill a penalty. Like, if you have that same urgency shift after shift, that's how you become an actual hockey player.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good way to explain it with that, because like I was saying, we don't have good language, like good words to explain what it means to really give it.
Yeah.
But then when you can show video, or you relate it like you just did with the penalty killing, because everyone knows what that's like. When you're on the penalty kill, it's like, game is on now. Like, I need to we're down a guy. Like, I need to make sure that I am pushing here, because, and me explaining it that way, like, someone who's never felt that before, they don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So it's important that you can, like, relay those kinds of messages to teach the kids what it means to work hard. It's not just yelling like, go hard, like, try harder, skate hard, blah.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't mean anything. And I remember in my head that not registering.
Yeah.
Like, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
You know, so you having some tools like that where you can show that, and kids will kind of understand what that kind of means, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's great because, like, when you break it down, you give a team identity, then we have one common goal. When you give everybody their own specific kind of role, then they feel important, and then they can see how their contribution helps the team, and how the team helps the individual.
Right.
So everybody can succeed.
Yeah. Well,
and
actually,
it's always recognizing it, though. It's like, don't ever, like, I just find that so many times coaches are either so far one way or so far the other. Like, it's always positive, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because kids need the truth sometimes. You know, you can go, you don't have to say you're not working hard, you're shit. But you could say, you know, there's more in there, and you didn't do the team job, like, you didn't get the puck out, or you're out of position, that's why they scored.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And then but being all negative is not good either.
Yeah, well, maybe this might start a little side tangent.
Yeah.
But all of this stuff is kind of predicated on your ability to communicate, obviously, as a coach.
Yeah.
Which a lot of adults see. I find that people that haven't played really high level competitive sports.
Right.
This isn't always true. Like, this is obviously an overstatement.
Okay.
But people that have been in positions like us, I oftentimes find have enough confidence to communicate well. Now, it's not limited to just confidence, but they have experience enough and they have confidence enough. They've developed themselves enough where they can explain and talk, and they're not scared of like the interaction between other people. And I find people that don't have that experience as much, and again, I'm like overstating this because obviously there's people outside that can communicate fine, but they don't have the same ability to relate. So if you're a parent coach or something and you don't have the same kind of experience or confidence in talking with your players individually, it's really important that you try to develop that, because if you can't talk to them, like this was an issue I had with coaches all through my careers. Like, they're just not good communicators.
Yeah.
Not and in junior it was different because maybe there's other motivations involved in why they're not talking and whatever, and it's not necessarily their job at that stage and whatever other reasons. But even there, like, just being able to take a kid aside and talk to him, and they're going to be nervous, they're going to be scared to talk to you, they're not going to approach 100%. You especially when they're young and little. As they get older, that's more expected, where they should be coming to you to talk if they have an issue. But what if you're in that position where maybe you're not? And again, it takes self-awareness to know you're not a good communicator, but assuming you know that maybe you're not the best communicator, then how do you play in that role? Like, what can you do? What kind of strategies would you come up with for that?
It's a good question. I can honestly say I probably don't have an answer, because I don't know if I would put myself in a situation to coach if I couldn't communicate.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, well, how about I'll give a half answer and then tell me what you think. I think it would turn into something that you can turn on yourself to work on yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you need to kind of take that responsibility now and say, I need to work on doing this. So even if you're not the best communicator, like, tough.
That or you have an assistant coach that is.
Yeah, that's a great.
Again,
yeah,
so
for
example, I had my buddy who he passed away. Actually, he's 44 years old. He was. We were so funny, and the kids just saw us laughing all the time. But he said, I want you to come and speak to the kids at the school, like, because he was a teacher too. And he goes, like, it's awesome. But then there was times where he was better than me at communicating with the kids, because he could just take a kid, excuse me, and just be honest with the kid and say, like, let's say it was Charlie. It's like, Charlie, I know that you're better than that. Like, what's wrong? How can you be better? Like, the guys need you. And just a little thing like that. And it was like enough. Or more than enough, really, that he would do the trick, or he would pay attention to the hockey piece to me, and he didn't get half of it, but he would just reiterate words and just, help the kids out that way, and he was perfect. So
that's a great answer, because I didn't even think about that. But this plays in your team, like with a coaching staff. It's the exact same thing as picking like your leadership on a team, right? Your captains and assistant captains. Like, I remember in junior, my 1 year, I was an assistant captain, and the captain of our team, awesome player. He ended up getting a Division I scholarship. Really good player. Didn't talk. Very quiet. He was a lot like Jerv, actually, where he's like very soft, led by example. He wasn't like the rah whatever guy. I'm more of a chatterbox, as you might notice. And so he would literally on the bench. Sometimes, like, we were on the same line. We'd be next to each other, and if something was going wrong, he'd give me a tap, and he would just be like, "Hey, get the boys going. Like, get them going. Like, say something, whatever." Because he's not the rah guy. Right. But he knew, hey, like, you're more of a rah guy, so you say something, like, you do it, kind of thing, right? And that's an awesome analogy to what you're saying with the coaches. Like, if you're not a guy that's a really effective communicator, you can bring someone on to help you, because you need a coaching staff, right? You're going to have assistant coaches.
Yeah, in youth hockey, you're going to have an assistant coach, coaches, and trainers, and stick boys, and all that kind of stuff. And you can just surround yourself with people that have that.
I didn't even think of that.
In fact, I'm just looking through Charlie's minor hockey career, and I'll look at even through mine. Like, Mr. Rose was a gem to me. Like, I can't ask for anything better. Mm-hmm. But even his assistant coaches, they were more goof around guys, but they knew a little bit of hockey, but they were more like joke around with you and get you going, and you love them. Some guys didn't like Mr. Rose because he was
Too much kind of thing.
too much maybe, but I loved him. And I look at Charlie's coaches, and it always seems like the assistant coaches were the ones that they really gravitated to. I remember the one Carlton. He just loved him. He goes, I love Carlton. I wish he was our head coach all the time. And he just had the it factor. And Charlie and the boys, not only my kid, would go through a wall for this guy.
Yeah.
So that's maybe one way to look at it. Now you gotta you say all this stuff with keeping in mind that you assume people's egos can be left.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And it's a tough thing though, because if you win, you want to be, you actually do want to say like, I really contributed to winning. But again, it's a rising tide that raises all ships. So if you give people power and strengths and stuff like that, it makes it better. So I would find good assistant coaches if you're more of a quiet guy. Yeah. And even someone with hockey knowledge, like, at the end of the day, youth hockey, you just want to give the kids the best experience and hopefully win some games, but that's
well, and it's not that it's going to be perfect either. Like we're not saying you're going to be running a NHL caliber organization or anything, but you want to make it the best situation you can. But even 100%. for different personalities on your team, that's a good thing, right? Where you got a guy that's more quiet and a guy that's a little bit more raw, because some guys might relate more to one than the other, like you just said, right? Like some people, I might like your style of speaking better, whereas another guy would rather have someone who's more a one-on-one, more quiet, can talk to them, that makes them more comfortable or whatever, and then you can play to all those different personality types. But yeah, that's that ability to communicate. If you're not a good communicator, like surround yourself with people that are, and then making sure that you're plugging strengths, whether it's yourself or your assistant coaches, coaching staff, or whatever. So that's good with that. Next one I had was, do you want to talk a bit about practice plans, or did you have another one?
No, practice. That's what I looked at your notes there, and that's what I took. No, practice plans. So in what context were you thinking practice plans? Like, how do you get them? How do you make them? Or how should you structure them? Or?
Yeah. Okay. So I was just talking like all of those things. So if you have your team, let's say you're at the point where you've identified like an identity or whatever you want for your team. You get Tuesday and Thursday practice for an hour. So how do you come up with what you're going to do for each of those days?
Okay, so you got 2 practices a year.
That's
two practices a week.
Let's say, yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Okay,
that's probably normal for a minor hockey team.
Yeah, maybe a little more, maybe. Yeah, but that's probably normal. Okay, so I'm gonna definitely want to. Youth hockey, your number one thing is you want to make sure that you're developing as players.
Okay, sorry. So then also go by, maybe level and age.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that matters, because if it doesn't matter how good you are and how old you are. If you're only working systems, then your tempo, your pace, your touches of the puck are not going to be there, and you definitely want to have that.
Okay,
so
cool.
I don't care what age you are.
Go ahead.
There's a amount of skill development that you have to do. Skill development is a weird word though, so I'll go into that in a second. So, anyways, you got a couple practices a week. You definitely want to touch on a little bit of system stuff, or something that resembles game-like situations, and you want to put some battle drills in there, because competition is going to bring out the best of everybody.
So would that be like one of your practices? You're doing systems and battle drills?
I've always included, like, let's say practice closer to the game time.
So Thursday night practice, let's say.
Yeah, for the weekend will be, I will touch on all breakout, forecheck. I'll touch on all the system stuff. Like, it might even just be briefly. But at the same time, I make sure that we do a lot of touches with pace. But the teaching part will be there. So I'm going to end it. I'm going to end that practice for sure on. Could be a battle drill, but it's going to end up on a pace, like the half an hour of pace. But the first half might be just more, let's dial in our stuff for the day.
Okay,
make sure we can execute properly. So that would be the day before tournaments or weekend games.
So let's say, okay, so Thursday practice, you're going first half of the practice, you're touching on breakouts, forechecks, special teams.
Yeah, we might
like a little bit of special teams.
Yep. And to be honest, I'll touch on some of that stuff in the week, and also every drill that I do when it comes to team drills, it resembles a game anyways. Right. So I'll design all my drills so that it looks like we're playing hockey.
Well, yeah, but in terms of the raw like systems work, you're doing like a half hour of that, let's say on a Thursday, and even because I mean half an hour seems like a lot of time, but it isn't really. So it'd be kind of like whatever you feel like you need to work on. So if you're forechecks totally dialed in, then maybe you don't need to do that
That's
one
right.
on Thursday
Exactly.
or whatever.
Exactly.
And then the back half of your practice, let's get some flow, let's get some pace, and let's touch the puck and get ready for the weekend.
So I'll always start a practice with like quick move and warm up.
Yep.
Then dial in like the week before games. Then I'll dial in some system stuff, and then finish off with some good bang for your buck workouts.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
the Tuesday is it's going to be, I might do a little skill work, but this is what I'm saying about skill work is, okay, so when people talk skills, and I even did this when I was with the did stuff with the Spitfires, with the Windsor Spitfires. Like Bobby was like, okay, so like you want me to do skill stuff, and he goes, yeah, just bring your toys and stuff. And I go, I don't have toys. But people assume almost like skill work is just tight turns and all the fancy tool stuff, but no, like it can be. Mm-hmm. But I was more of the mindset, like, so for my team, every team I've had is that, okay, here's my philosophy, no matter what. And Eric Wellwood and I were talking about this the other day. I brought to his attention that, like, to me, kids, skill buckets are skill buckets. You have to get good skill buckets. Fill them all up as best as you can. You got a basic skill bucket. If your skill buckets are basically filled, now you can build a hockey player. But you could be the best skater in the world. We could have the best systems in the world. We could have the best motivation in the world and all that shit. Could be best stick handlers. But if you can't move the puck properly, like good passing, you can't play hockey. Mm-hmm. And moving the puck is to me, and not just passing stationary. I'm talking passing. Like, the better that you can move a puck, pass, receive, make them accurate, make them precise, make them crisp, that team has a chance to win all the time. Because, I mean, it's the oldest thing in hockey. Puck moves faster than a player all the time.
Yep.
So why wouldn't people work that? And to me, that's the biggest skill. You can work on a shooting anytime you want. You can work on skating. And so as you're doing passing drills and stuff, you're working on a blend of everything anyways. Mm-hmm. So that would be my biggest thing, is that if I'm doing drills where I'm not having good puck movement, then I'm actually wasting practice.
Okay, so that's an awesome point. So when because I find too, a lot of times passing, it's not really, it's like kind of like an auxiliary skill. Like people don't really consider that like in the meat of like skating, shooting, stick handling, right? Like if I say we're going to have a skill day, even me, when I think about it, my thoughts go right to stick handling, shooting, skating. Yeah. It's never passing. Like I never include passing in there, which is like arguably not the most important, but in terms of team play, the most important. Right? As an individual, those other skills, obviously you need to be able to do those things. But in terms of a team together, like you can park a guy that can't skate. If he can pass, you might be able to use him.
100%.
Right? So, but people don't think of, I don't think it's weighted the same, which is weird.
It's really weird. And it's a philosophy that people should actually really consider. And if you noticed, when I do my skill stuff, like, okay, so let's go back. In a team setting, moms and dads, you might be a little bit upset with this if your coach isn't doing skill practices, but honestly, he doesn't have time. Mm-hmm. You don't. You can incorporate it through drills and stuff, but if you're going to get better skills, that's the onus is upon you to get better. If you're fortunate enough to get the extra hour of ice and stuff, great. But that's going to come on yours, and the coach has to work on building a decent team.
Right.
But if you notice, when I do my skill work, and I've become more and more aware of it over the last 10 years, but especially the last 5, and especially the last 2, and especially the last 1, and especially I just keep dialing in puck movement. So here's the important thing about passing. Like, okay, so we'll go back to my skill. I incorporate, if let's just say we're doing, for the most simplest terms of skill development, we're skating straight through 5 pylons. Okay. I refuse to start the drill with just that. I want to make sure that there's a touch to start the drill with a guy, like a pass, and hopefully 1 or 2 different touch points along the way. Because in a game, that's how you play. You're not skating through everybody. And then what happens just by default, some of the passes that you're going to get are going to be in your feet. Some of them are going to be too far ahead. Some of them are going to be bouncy. So you're building a skill by default. Yep. And it's absolutely crucial. What else was I going to say about the passing? So my terminology is you got to make the people around you better, right? So like yesterday, Welly and I we spent basically 6 hours yesterday doing passing drills, but that might seem like it's real basic, but it's actually not. So we started off with the basic stuff, and guys are like, it's just not accurate, just not good enough. And I was explaining to them, I said, the reason that certain guys were drafted is because, or if you ever want a chance to play, is because you can make other people better, and that's in your passing. So I've said this before, everybody wants to play on the top line, right? And I've seen kids get that opportunity to go play on the top line with the best player, and it never works. It not never works out, but a lot of times it doesn't work out because that person can't contribute, right? It's always someone making them look good, but and it doesn't work out because they haven't handled those quick passes, like, you know, with speed, or it's in their feet,
Yep.
or it's maybe not perfect, or they can't dish it off again, and they become not hockey players.
Yep.
So I'm freaking 100% convinced. Yes, you have to skate, you have to be able to handle the puck a little bit, but moving the puck and making plays through passing is the number one skill, in my opinion.
Well, and all of this is in the team context. That's why
100%.
right. So obviously, as an individual, you need to work on all your
Yep.
skating, shooting, sticking,
Yep.
all that. But in a team setting,
Yep.
that ability to catch, and you know, I was a few weeks ago. I don't remember. I want to say it was Montreal. Somebody scored late goal in the game. I don't know if it was a game winner, whatever. They ended up they got a breakaway to
Yep.
score. I want to say it was Montreal. I think it was. Anyways, guy was breaking out and he had a clear go, and a guy like had to scramble to like headman it to him to give
Yeah.
him the breakaway.
Yeah.
So it was like a quick play where he had to make the pass, and it was
Okay.
it was a junk pass.
Okay.
But so it was in his feet. So he had to in stride, took the puck off the feet up to his stick,
Yeah.
and got his breakaway and scored.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can't do that because you haven't handled that kind of shitty pass, you lose an opportunity there.
100%.
You know, so the ability to not only be a good passer, but to receive passes and to receive bad passes.
Yes.
You see that in the NHL all the time. Guys tapping pucks out of the air.
Yep.
Guys taking it off the wall behind them and going. Like, they can handle things all around their reach. Wherever they can reach, they can handle pucks in all those areas. Not every time, but a lot of times. So they can turn something that looks like it's going to be a blown up play into an opportunity.
Yep.
And having that ability to do that in a team context, because that's what happens in the game, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Buddy tries to throw a 6-foot sauce to you, but it's a knuckleball that hits you in the hip.
Yeah.
But you can trap it.
That's right.
And now trap it down to your feet, up to your stick, and now you're going. And instead of it being a turnover, a dead play, or whatever, now you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
So now that's one extra opportunity you just got because you were able to handle that, where you wouldn't have had that. And that's a skill that people don't really recognize. So especially in that team context, like we're talking about, when you're doing your Tuesday night practice where you're talking about skill practice, that's really, really good advice, because that's not something that people think of as skill. So if you were to just sit here and say, we'll do a skill practice on Tuesday, end of story, people are doing cones, skating, and shooting drills, and that's it. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like gameplay skills, like what's going to happen in the game.
Dude, I'm telling you right now. So we have one of our, of course you know this, one of our units, one of our business units at PowerTech is we use PEP. So I have someone that does that. Right? We have Brett that is in charge of doing PEP. And it was funny because we did one the other day, and I've never really been on the ice for a lot of them. I get it, stick handling. You know, it's a pylon. It's good.
Yeah,
it's good. There's a time and a place for it, but it's good. And it was funny because I was showing Welly, I go like, oh, that guy's done PEP a whole bunch of times. So if you don't know what that is, Power Edge Pro, it's the long, they're supposed to, I don't know, they look like pylons, but they're not
plastic.
pylons.
They got little tucks underneath it, a stick coming off it. There's a bunch of different ones.
shit.
You can just do a bunch of stick handling stuff around it.
And there's actually, it's better than a pylon.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Because you can do different things with it, but it's a pylon.
Yeah.
So, but then, anyways, my point of this is that a lot of people have done PEP. So they already know what the drills are, but they're really, really proud, and they think they're cool. I don't mean that like a jerk, but actually maybe I do. But you know, they come and do the 10 and 2 or the Mohawk, and they can really do the Mohawk and do some real fancy stuff on the PEP. But if you put them in, like, we'll play even a small area game and put hockey where they're moving pucks and actually playing hockey, not a clue.
Yeah.
So that skill work, I wouldn't say it's useless. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say that being able to do a 10 and 2 at a good speed is useless, but it's not your foundation of skill.
Well, it's only useful if you can use it in the game where you need it.
Yes.
Which if you never have an opportunity to do that because you're so busy doing raw skills,
then bobbling a puck.
That 10 and 2, you're never going to identify when it's appropriate to use that.
That's
you know what I mean?
That's right. Or being able to stick find the triangle and stick it through, and do all kinds of fancy stuff is fine. And I've just seen not a million. I've seen most people that do a lot of the skill work out there. They end up being good at the drills, but the hockey brain is just, it doesn't matter that they're very skilled at practice.
Well, and man, we make that comment all the time. Like
Yeah.
he's skilled, but he can't play hockey.
Can't play hockey.
And there's a difference.
It's huge difference.
You know, just because you're skilled doesn't mean
and
you're gonna be good.
it seems counterintuitive. And I think a lot of parents would say, like, yeah, but my kid, you know, that's basically what you hear. Yeah, but he does the stick handling, he does the shooting, he shoots real well and all that stuff. But it's useless if you can't put yourself in a position to actually use it.
Yep.
I've seen guys with really hard shots that maybe, you know, like top end shots, but they're never in a position to use a shot. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Right? Or find openings and stuff like that. And that's why the passing drills, again, if you go back to it, it's not just passing. Like, so there's ways to get very creative with your passing and make a game situation and just do things where you're creating, you know, filling in holes and just understanding the flow of the game.
Right.
Just by doing passing drills, all of a sudden the game kind of, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah,
especially if you can teach it even better. So like every team I've had, the young guys, or well, when I coach the older guys in Detroit, that was the comment everyone went. It goes, man, you guys are good. Man, do you move the puck? I'm not exaggerating. I used to do drills where I'd get the pros and juniors out there, and it would be at least that level because I had good players.
Yeah.
But we would move the puck so crisp, so well, so fast, manage the puck so well. It was just compliments all the time. And then, okay, yeah, that's because you had good players. No, and this is where I was surprised as a coach. I just had the philosophy. I said, they will learn how to move the puck because it's the only thing we have. It's the only chance that these little guys have of success is being able to move the puck well. So we started in, let's say, September-ish, mid-September. And by end of October, so September, 2 months, it was like, oh, wow, these guys are actually getting it. It's becoming crisp. And, you know, I was able to teach even the forwards, don't dust it off so much. Just here it is, get the head up and move. So you're teaching a lot of things too, right? You got a puck on your stick. You don't have to stare at it. You learn how to handle it with your head up. With your head up when you're getting a pass, if you have that head up or your eyes up, you've slowed the game down for yourself. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're picking up the puck and then you have to look up, the game's coming at you too fast. So if you're getting used to grabbing pucks with your head up and you have vision, the game's slow. You see things happening before they even develop.
Yeah.
So it's like magic. But literally within 2 months, these kids were like, they're dishing it around. 8-year-old kids, and the coaches said they'll never get this stuff. I go, trust me, it's 1 step, it's 2 steps. You know, we're just going to work on it.
Yeah.
And my coaches said, I can't believe, like, I don't even understand the drills anymore. The coaches.
Yeah.
I said, don't worry, man. It's good. They get it. And they were getting hockey. But the beautiful thing is, like, we would do a D to D to the middle, right? We'd do that rep after rep after rep. And it was ugly at first. And then it became slow but crisp. You know what I mean? Slow but fluid. And then it became quick with fluid. And then we were able to add. So, but the beautiful thing was, as you're doing, like, let's say it's a D to D, hit the center in the middle, get it to the wing. As you're doing this, what's going to happen at first is they're going to fail, which is great because your failure is your teaching moment. So as they're failing, you say, okay, why did this not work? Well, it didn't work because we got it to the D and the centerman just had too short of a route. So you explain to them how they can support a puck getting deep, getting wide, and now the short passes beat pressure. It becomes crisp, and they go, okay. So then I could take that as a teaching point and say, okay, so this is in the neutral zone or a breakout. This happens all over the ice. If you get turning your back to the play, or if you're too big of a gap in making passes, there's people there. Like, this is how you play hockey, and you could do the teaching thing over and over and over. Then the game kind of reveals itself. Oh, this is actually how you play hockey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude,
it was pretty simple.
There's so many things you just said, like, that I want to hit again.
Yeah.
People that listening, like, go back and listen to what he just said again, because there's, like, so much meat in there that I'm not going to be able to hit all of it. But so the first thing, well, actually, let's wrap this first because I want to go on, like, keep branching on this point. So for the Tuesday practice, just to wrap it up, you're talking just skills like that the whole practice,
all the time, like
passing, game situation, skill based, not cones. You're talking
cones. No cones,
game
not
situation.
Not in a team. I would do that very, very seldom. If it was like I would actually basically never do it. I'm a skills coach in life.
But people are coming to you for individual practice when you're doing those sessions.
And
it's
those
not a team practice.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay, so Tuesday, that's what we're doing. Okay,
Yeah.
so now branching back on what you just said, kids, their brains are very plastic, right? They can learn quick. So the fact that your assistant coaches were maybe surprised at how quickly, just in a couple months, they're picking it up, like that makes perfect sense. You'd spend the time at the beginning to get that base set of they understand why they're doing what they're doing and how to do things properly, and they're going to keep messing it up. But then, like I said at the start of the podcast, it's not linear. It's exponential improvement that happens. You get, especially with kids, because they can pick things up so fast.
Yes.
And teenagers, like up to when you're 25, man, you're learning quick around there, right? You're learning quick. Your brain can pick things up a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So
with those young guys, sorry to cut you off.
Yep.
With those young guys, it was so bad.
Yeah.
That when I started this, I said, okay, they got to learn how to move a puck. So my first drill that I did the first 2 drills was stationary, like cross the blue lines, like dot to dot. So move the puck, just kind of a follow your pass. It evolved into a 2-touch, or 1-touch, like so touch, back of the line, where it was ugly as hell, like not even close.
Yeah.
But the patience, and then I would take that and I would just encourage them, we'll get better. And I teach them the art of passing and receiving and 1-touching. And then I moved that to a follow your pass down the ice, where they took a couple steps, snapped the pass off, but hustled. So they got some skating into it, and it was awful until it became not awful. And then the next evolution was on the 4 blues and just doing real simple kind of
pass and move,
touch passes around the horn that evolved to like a neutral zone D to D. We didn't even touch breakouts yet until they got moving the puck, and then we started doing breakouts.
Right.
But it was like it started getting better to the point where, like I said, my coaches just went, I honestly don't even understand what we're doing anymore.
Yeah.
There's guys buzzing all over the place.
And how painful the first 2 months are, eh?
Oh, I was going to cut my own head off.
And that's right. And as the coach, though, like it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're here for. You're here to teach. You're here to teach the kids what to do. So that you have to bite it and be frustrated. You don't just like brush by it.
That's right.
For the sake of just doing your practices, because that just makes it unenjoyable and it's not fun. Like when you're a kid in a practice and everything sucks and you guys can't get through a drill, like that's not fun.
Right.
You know, so you take the 2 months of pain to get the benefit later on. So that was the first thing. And they pick it up quick, and they will pick it up
100%.
quick if you have enough patience to deal with the shit for the first bit while they suck.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the first one. Then the second thing I just want to touch on this quick is you were talking about slowing the game down, like how if you can catch a pass with your eyes up and see the ice, that slows the game down. And that's what's funny is people say that a lot and they don't know what that means. Like, oh, he can really, like the game just is slower for him. Like he can just see the ice. But that is actually what's happening is they can work with their eyes up.
One area,
yeah. So because you can work with your head up, you're not you don't feel like you're in a rush all the time.
No.
But if you have to like trap the puck, eyes down, then look up, then stick handle it 4 times, that's 5 seconds just went by.
Yeah.
You know? So that's a key skill too. That's a good teaching point for the young coaches too when you're teaching passing stuff.
Well, it's like one of the things, and it is a passing. Like I always correct defensemen at the high levels. Yeah. So we make a D to D pass. Okay. So if I'm catching it on my forehand side, what a lot of people do is it's an old habit or whatever, but they cradle it. So that puck comes, especially a hard pass, if you cradle, what happens is instead of catching it here in the middle of your body, catching it on a cradle, it's going to be outside your legs, outside your hips. So now that little moment right there, you have to readjust your body because now you can't shoot from outside your body well. You can, but it's not well. So you have to go chase the puck a little bit again, right? And then you have no choice but to kind of redirect your eyes and then look up. So there's a moment in time, plus you put yourself out of position. So what I really try to teach the D is that, especially the harder the pass, the more you want to like just kind of tap it, so that so you know where it is. But as you're tapping it, you're watching the puck, and you're catching it like this.
Yeah. But
it's right in the middle of your body.
Eyes
now.
up.
But your eyes are up. The puck's exactly in the middle of your body. You know that stick length. So all it is now is all you have to do is step into it to make a play.
No
Are you shooting? Maybe. Are you passing? Maybe. But the beautiful thing about it is when you catch that, your head's already up. So you can see, like, you could be this far away from me. You me away. I'm not shooting, but I already recognize it. So now I've already seen other options.
Yeah.
So it makes the game, that's what I'm saying about being slower.
Yeah.
It slows down.
Yeah,
whereas if I have to go look up, look down, Now your sticks here.
Yeah.
I don't have the.
All that
I
is
can't
time.
even mentally
Yeah,
process that.
exactly.
But
All
if
that
it's-
is time.
Right.
Yeah.
So but it's repetition. So you wouldn't believe how many times I still say to guys, hey, where's your puck? You're chasing it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it takes patience and it takes work and it takes reminders, but and here's why, guys. So I work continually on the D. It's just it's here, and now you can make plays.
Yeah.
And if it buys you, especially at the highest levels, if it buys you a tenth of a second, it's a ton of time.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the other thing on that, and then the last one I wanted to talk about, just wrapping up maybe the practice plans here, is you're talking about game situation skills, and I wanted to just touch on what that means because I watch you do it. So like you were saying before, people think about skills as stick handling, skating, and shooting, which they are, and then we're putting passing in that mix when you're talking about it in a team setting. So some of the drills that you like to do, and you can just throw your thoughts on this real quick.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I really like that you do is when you have the guys kind of start through the neutral zone, come down, make a move, take their shot, and then they got to peel into the corner and then do their tight turns.
Yeah.
Or if they're a D, they come up and open up.
Yeah.
And then get their shot with a tip or whatever. Yeah. So what you do is like you create drills that are like appropriate to the position and what they would have happen in a game. So you're going to have a mix of like tight turns, handling the puck, making moves, getting shots, tight turns, escape moves, and then whether you're a D or a forward, you'll kind of specialize that portions of the drill for those positions.
Yeah.
But everything that you're doing is going to be something that they could have happen in the game.
100%.
And that's what we're talking about when we're saying a Tuesday, like a skills practice. It's stuff that you're going to do in your actual game, not just like stations where you're working on raw skills like you would do in the off season.
Right.
So I don't know if you want to throw any thoughts on that or just
well, I think it's important that, like, if you're going to do reps of something, it just gets you thinking about a hockey game. Because the thing is like, and I have nothing against pylons, and I have not, like, that's all good stuff, and but for me there's a time and place for that, and you can get a ton of that stuff done in the summer times or in your own private settings, and trust me, if you're stick handling and you don't have any instruction and you don't figure it out on your own, you won't be a good stick handler.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this has to work, right? Your bottom hand, top hand, your weight transferring and all that stuff, and putting drills that make sense that you can apply to a game. Like, so like if I'll see someone turn on a cone, let's say on the forehand side, and their hands are twisted and their heads like down. Like, okay, they haven't been taught this up, lead with your head, don't crisscross, keep it at your hip.
Right.
Different things like that. Well, then they're working on a skill that's actually not, they're getting worse at something. Yeah. So it's important that you do proper skill development that way, but there's a time and a place for it. But for me, with the team, I want to work on, like, I want my wingers to be able to retrieve puck that's got a rim on the wall.
Yes.
I want you to add the fake either way to escape. And I want those first 3 steps to be very, very quick, because the only 3 steps that matter at this point is 2 to 3 steps. Then make a decision. So then I'll set a pattern that would occur in a game, and I will give them an option of a pass or a rebound or a tip or maybe something double, so that, because it happens. And I remember Danny Maggio, Zach Katsian, when they were playing in Bantam or Midget, they both scored, or they had plays make, and they went to the bench right away, and they said, "Oh, we worked with Andy on that for hours." And it actually happens in real life.
Yeah.
And they could always relate. Okay, I've done that 100 times.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing that people need to be able to identify with the skill stuff, is like, you can see, like, so many people put on, like, social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, little clips of all this, like, sexy cone stick handling speed, and these guys got really nice hands and they got all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, but you got to play hockey. Like, you got to be able
at it. Like, it's good to have
it. It's good, right?
But it's like,
only if you can actually play.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just good at doing cones.
Right.
Which
do
is
it with some competition.
Yeah.
Do it
under pressure.
Like, start that drill with a hard rim.
Yeah.
And take the hard rim off. Let's see if you can do that.
Yeah.
Because we work on skating down the ice, or even passing drills. Like, that's why I like to do a lot of passing and rims and stuff, because if you're coming out as a left winger, how many times let's say you get 20 exits in a game, how many times do you get that pass that's perfectly on your stick to get out? I would say maybe 2.
Yeah, maybe
3, and if you're a really good team, maybe 4 or 5. but most of them are going to be rims or bad passes in your feet and your skates. So, and it's like we said last week, the ratio is, they say hockey is what percent mental, right? And Dalton had an answer for that in his own way. I'll mention that. He said he goes, there's no answer to that. He goes, I think it's 95% physical, but the 5% is your gateway to success.
Yeah.
That's his thought. But anyways, when you think of that question, right, everyone says it's what percent of the game is mental? How much of the mental game do you work on? And most people, it's zero or very little. So if you put that in perspective on a skill development side and say, how many times do you work on, right? If how many times do you get a clean exit out of the zone? Let's say the percentages is 80% of the time it's going to be a bobbled pass or up the ass or a rim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How often do you work on that? The answer is 0 or 2% or 1%. You don't work on the skill that actually matters.
Right.
So the kids that actually work on the less sexy things, like honestly, some of the skill stuff that you do, you wouldn't put it on video because you'd say, well, what are you doing? It's no good. But it's actually the most important part.
Well, and there's so many guys that play that aren't good at that stuff, but they're good at hockey. So it's like you watch, like I remember playing with some of these guys that if you had the stick handle around 2 cones, they'd lose the puck, but they could find open ice in the slot and shoot.
100%.
So they would score.
100%.
So they're good.
100%.
You know?
Exactly.
So it's like, it doesn't matter how good you are at the fancy whatever. But then because people
protection.
People like think, oh yeah, there's another huge one.
Getting your ass into someone and just controlling the play.
But people think like the sexy skills, like that determines your worth as a player, and it's just not even close. And you'll see that all the time because people will like be talking shit about some player that they say he can barely skate. It's like, well, how does Thomas Holmstrom play for 25 years in the NHL or whatever it was in the NHL?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
On broken knees.
Yeah. Like, because he was good at one thing and that was a skill.
Yeah.
And he was good at that in real hockey.
That's
and
right.
could do it in real, like real time in the game with pressure.
Right.
And that's the difference for your skill work, you know?
That's right.
Good. So the last thing I wanted to touch on here, and I don't know, however you want to take it, was kind of like your maybe thought processes or your philosophies or how you approach the game as a coach on the bench, like in game. So like, what are you thinking in the game? Like if your goal is like, you want to win the game, obviously your goal is to win the game. So what is your thought process as a coach standing on the bench, like behind your team? Like, what are you thinking about how to navigate, winning the game, let's say, or however other way you want to take that question?
Yeah. Winning the game to me is, it's not the most important thing. That's again counterintuitive, but we're talking development years. If I'm coaching in the OHL or the NHL, then you would get paid on results, and it sometimes doesn't make the parents the most happy. Neither does winning necessarily, because sometimes you win. If you're winning, it could be at the risk of other people's ice time and stuff. And as a coach, you're never going to win. So you have to have, again, a strong philosophy. So my philosophy would be to make sure that people are playing the right way, and that means number one, effort, and they're following the system to a certain degree. But what's important to me is that the effort's there and that I'm giving them feedback. So on the bench, like I'm not. So what I mean by that is, when a player's playing, you'll hear a lot of coaches yell, "Skate, shoot, go." Those are coaching cues, but not really.
Go.
They're just words. They
hey,
go what? Like you got to do do something.
Go.
Well, I am doing something. It's nothing, or whatever, right? And it's okay. But the point is that you're not coaching the guys on the ice. That's not what you're doing. You're coaching. So I'll give coaching cues to the guys on the bench, and it'll be like, did you see that forecheck, guys? Oh, did you see that block shot? Did you, guys? We got to line up here. Do this. And I'm pointing out things so that. And they're in the middle of a game. They actually don't give two shits what I'm saying. But but basically what it is you're throwing mud on the wall. Hopefully some of it's going to stick, and it does. So that's that part. So you're coaching the kids on the bench, and now that's one thing. Always, especially in youth hockey, you're always teaching. So and again, it's just coaching cues. Alex, on that face-off, you know what happened? Okay, here's what I saw. Boom, boom, boom. This is what you need to do. Okay, coach, that's it. You might get it, you might not. But I like the whiteboard, and then in between periods, it's maybe a little bit of adjustments, or maybe it's just a little bit of encouragement. But so this was interesting. There's I've been on benches where guys in between periods, you know, in minor hockey, you don't necessarily flood or whatever. You don't get the dressing room, so they'll sit there and say, "Okay, guys, just keep going. Like work hard." And there's no substance to it. But I always made a point to say, "Okay, I'm going to give them something really, really, really positive that they're doing, and to continue to do, or something that they need to tweak or to make better, so that there's actual coaching." So it could be, you guys had a great shift. What I don't like about that, or shift, you had a great period because you did this, this, and this. What I want to see you do a little bit better is, you know, squeeze on the face-offs. Like I need that so that you guys will win the game or whatever. Or you got to tighten up your own zone. I see it getting sloppy. Understand, boys? Yeah, and then they can relax. But it's always a little bit of a coaching cue. It keeps them engaged too.
Yeah, that's awesome. The big takeaway on that one for me, because I didn't think of this either, is you're coaching the guys on the bench.
You're not coaching the guys.
You're not coaching the guys on that means
drives me nuts when people say that.
But that you just saying that to me even right now, like obviously that's obvious. But until you I didn't articulate it in my own head that is actually what you're doing. Like you're there to coach the guys that are on the bench. The guys that are on the ice playing, you can't do anything now. They're on the ice playing. You're not going to yell at a guy, "Hey, go harder!" when he's on the ice. He's playing. Can't hear you.
Well, you might mistake your voice for his dad.
Yeah, seriously.
He was yelling for sure.
Oh yeah,
he's saying the exact same thing. I had one dad that used to, when we were young. His kid was the one that was fast in the right, and he used to stand behind our bench up top.
I remember.
And I had a thing on the penalty kill, not to force. Just let these guys because we would make too many mistakes, so I would teach them how to do a 1-1-2, like just push them to the side, and we'd get at the puck every time. So his son would go out there and start skating, and his dad would be, "Go, go, go!" And I'd look up and say, "No, that's not what I told them."
That's right.
And then he would actually skate and look, and I would just go play.
Yeah.
But seriously, you're coaching the guys on the bench, not the ice.
Big takeaway on that one. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So that wraps up what I wanted to talk about for this stuff. Is there anything you want to leave off on or wrap with, or anything else you want to say?
The whiteboard systems. Yeah. So I'll just say this, as far as systems go and youth hockey, the younger the hockey, obviously the less systems. But people can get caught up in the details of systems. What I would say on a system side, is find the basics, because anything you do will work if you stick to it. Don't make it too complicated though. So for example, if you have a really offensive, fast, good team, then, maybe you have a pretty good, you tighten up your D zone, but once you get out of the D zone, just go play. Don't teach them anything, because they're kind of good. If you got a team that's not very good, then I would, you want to teach them a more defensive game all around. So, you can teach maybe a 1-2-2 where you have a high guy. You're just teaching that type of system in all three zones. A
little more structure, because they don't have as much skill to compensate.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But you got to let kids play hockey too. But you do need a little bit. I don't care what level you're at. You got to understand how to play hockey, because you can't correct what's not a thing, right?
Yep.
You could say work hard, but okay, now if you say work hard, and I did work hard. I worked as hard as I can. That's what their kids are saying. I worked really hard. If you say, okay, in your zone, you're a right winger. This is the simplest hockey ever. You're responsible for that top quadrant, top of the circles to the middle of the ice, okay? And that loose puck was there, and that was your puck. I need you to work harder at that. Now it's actually, okay.
That's right? Something I can actually do, an action step.
Yeah, they might cry, but no, I'm just saying, they might, but it's at least something you can identify and say, okay, that's what you need to get better at, not just work hard.
Yeah.
So the systems are actually kind of important, but keep it simple.
Yeah. Well, actually, one more thing I want to throw on that too, actually, is the crying thing, because it's funny. But some kids, that is actually a thing. When they're young, some of them have never had an adult talk to them before. Right. So they think because they're being they are being criticized, but because you're trying to teach them, they don't know what to do with that.
Right.
They don't know how to react to that. They get nervous. They get scared. They get defensive. They don't know how to behave when an adult is telling them what to do. And that's another piece that you need to figure out how to navigate, right? How am I going to communicate a message to this kid that might cry if I, you know what I mean? That's another part of the coaching thing though, right? That's another part of the art of it. You have to figure out how to do that stuff. But with the systems thing, that's totally 100% accurate, man. And the point that I made earlier, the less skill they have, the more structure you should try to toss on them, just so that because you want it to be fun and you want them to have a like be competitive with all the teams. And if they are completely crap and don't have enough skill to just go and play freestyle, then they need something to help them. You know, so you can provide that through system stuff.
The bottom line, even if you don't know a lot about hockey, providing some structure is good because it's hockey now.
Yeah,
you're giving them something to be accountable to. Like you can't, like if you don't have any type of system, then there's actually the only thing you can give them shit for or correct is their effort. So if they're not working hard, then that's the only thing you could say. But even then, it's like, well, I don't know how to work hard because you didn't give me anything really to work for. Like I don't know what you mean. So that's why the structure is fairly important.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's a little story. It's funny how a coach can have an effect on a player. So Charlie had a coach, and if the coach has something to say, they have something to say. It's okay. But for some reason, the coach just wanted to always have something to say to him, and he called him and one of the kids that work out here, and told my son. My son was really upset after. He pulled him outside and he said that you will never get drafted, but he will. And I said, you're full of shit. That's not what he said. He goes, Dad, that's what he said. And I asked the kid. I said, what did the coach say? I asked the other kid. He goes, oh, he said that Charlie has no chance of getting drafted, but I will. He goes, I don't know why he said that. And I'm like, I don't know why you would have to do that. Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to. I need to get this out. No, no, but I was like, what is wrong with you? And he had this burr up his ass the whole time. And so my point is like, why, if you're going to coach and that's your attitude, you don't have to. And there's been kids that I've coached that I didn't particularly like or care for that much, but it was never, I would never beat them down because it's just a personality thing or whatever. But I would never take a kid and beat him down. And maybe it was his way of saying he was motivating him to maybe, right? He could have probably said, if I tell him this, he's just going to work hard, but he already is working hard. But that was a message that he got. So my point is that, like, be careful in your words sometimes. Like, be thoughtful. Like, have a philosophy and have a thing. Like, if you're not going to say something nice, don't say anything at all. I'm not saying use that one, but that's a philosophy. Mm-hmm. Or if it's if I'm going to give criticism, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to sandwich it, or I'm going to explain what my criticism is or what my expectations are. Just don't throw blind statements because kids are sensitive. Kids are young. They don't know how to take things all the time. Like you said, an adult talking the first time, it could be misconstrued totally.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so sticking on that, something that I've come to realize now is, and this is for kids any age up till they're like 15, 16, 17, until they go and play in the OHL, or now it's more professional, let's say. You don't know, and with everything you said, I agree with, but then on top of that is you don't know which thing you say is going to stick.
That's right.
And that's something that I've learned with the guys that I'm working out with, because sometimes, so we're not that far in age, so we're like 10 years apart.
Right.
And so they ask me about stuff outside of just working out. And sometimes we're just goofing around, like saying stupid crap, like just joking around. And
they're funny.
They're hilarious, right? And they're all goofing around. So we'll be talking about working out or whatever we're talking about, whichever thing. It could be something like that or something about working out. And then a couple days later, we'll kind of revisit what we were talking about.
Right.
And they'll say something to me that I said to them. Yep. And I would have never thought that's what they would have taken away from the conversation. And that is one of the things you need to be careful of saying. And that's why, like you're saying, like even just watch what you say. So even for me, like as an adult, even though I still feel like I'm a kid, I'm not. I'm an adult. So it's like you need to be careful with what you say. And something that you think is a joke or something that you think won't hurt their feelings or something that you think is motivating to them might not be.
100%.
And then the second sentence you say, they might take something from that sentence where you just thought it was just something you're throwing out there and passing, and that might stick with them.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me a bunch of times with that older group of kids that I have in here.
Yeah.
They'll come back and hit me with something that I said that I didn't think was important.
Right.
But that's what they remembered. 100%. So that's a huge, I'm going to leave that for me. Like I'm going to leave with that because you never know. You're in a very unique position as a coach where you can influence kids positively or negatively, and you need to be careful with that responsibility because you can really impact them one way or the other. So you have to be thoughtful, like you're saying, about what the messages that you're putting out there and what you think you're joking around with, or what you think you're teaching them, or whatever, because you don't know how they're going to take what you're saying. Even if you think you do, even if you think it was a clear message, they could have totally missed the mark and took this other thing you said, and that sticks with them.
Well, the kids are sensitive. Like they have, they're insecure.
Yeah.
I don't mean that like.
What's an awkward part of their life, man? They're trying to figure it out. Like they don't know what's going on.
Well, you get a kid, like you say in the gym, for example, and you got, like, it's very competitive. No matter what you say to them.
Yeah.
Charlie wants to lift more than Liam.
100%. And
Liam wants to lift more than Jerv. And they want to be better. And if someone does something well, it's like, they go, okay, me too. Right? And if it is what it is. So you could say the wrong thing and it's like, yeah, you throw them right off.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to stick with that. Is there anything else you want to leave off on?
No, I think that's good.
Good.
Like our environment. That's
great. I know. I think we might stick with this. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, so wrap her on that one then.
Awesome.